Check. 1, 2, 3.
The D.
Brief.
This is the D Brief.
Go. Your guide to Detroit.
Your guide to Detroit's arts
and entertainment scene.
This is the D
Brief.
Hello and welcome to the Debrief. I'm your co-host. My name is Seth Wrestler.
And I'm Becky Scarcello.
Oh, I know you love these food interviews.
I do.
You love the chefs.
Yes, I do.
This is your sweet spot right
Yes.
here. This is a fantastic restaurant. I have been there. I have had the fried bologna. We're going to talk about that.
Literally everything I've tried there, I've loved.
We are talking, of course, about Grey Ghost, this fantastic restaurant that's right there on Watson Street and this neighborhood, Brush Park.
Brush Park. Mm-hmm.
This is a big deal that this restaurant came into Brush Park.
Yeah, I
right?
think you didn't know since you've only been here in Detroit for 4 years.
No, I know nothing about Brush Park.
Brush Park was pretty dilapidated. I mean, it used to be, it's one of the oldest communities in the city of Detroit, but suffered huge decline. You know, some of the oldest homes, biggest homes, there's still gorgeous homes there, but many, many were lost. A lot of empty spaces. Not a lot of business going on there.
So we're going to talk about that among many other things today. We have two of the chef owners. We have John Vermiglio and Joe Giacomino of Grey Ghost. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We're pumped.
So let's start here. For people who have never been to the restaurant, explain the concept. What's it all about?
Always a loaded question, I always fear. So the space itself that we're in is formerly the Crystal Ballroom, which is built in 1919, I believe, right off of Woodward in the Brush Park neighborhood you spoke of. And it was many things over the years. Its last known purpose as Ye Olde Butcher Shop, which had an untimely demise thanks to the rise of big grocery stores like Whole Foods. And anyway, so we really wanted to pay homage to that. It was sort of something that we had both sort of grown to love, the art of butchery and doing charcuterie and dry aging steaks. And so having it be in this former butcher shop, it all just kind of lined up. But I can safely say now, almost 3 years in, we've evolved away from doing just that meat-focused thing, which is part of being with the times, I suppose. So now it's really much more difficult to explain what kind of spot it is, but it's, in our opinion, hopefully the epitome of hospitality and obviously good food and good drink, but just a good spot to feel good about being where you are and who you're supporting and the neighborhood and the city that you're in. So hopefully that's palpable.
And one of the things that we've always talked about is that Grey Ghost has become a place that's kind of available for any event, if you will. You know, everything is from casual, from getting a burger before going to a Tigers or Red Wings or Pistons game or a concert, as we're right down the street from the LCA, to a special birthday or anniversary dinner. And we've kind of been able to. We set out to hit all those notes, and we've seen it live in action with someone in a Red Wing sweater sitting next to a guy in a three-piece suit that's having his anniversary, and they're both having different experiences side by side, and they're both finding what they're looking for in that night. So I think that's been one of the things that we've stuck to as one of our identities.
That has always struck me. It strikes the right balance between a destination restaurant and a neighborhood spot. Like, it feels like both. And it's just very comfortable, but also kind of fancy enough where you feel special being there. So
it was my first time there. We were actually riding our bikes over from Boston Edison, and it was a cool place to just sort of stop in. And you're right, it had that sort of cool feel to it, but I also felt okay,
comfortable,
hopping off my bike.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to do, and I think it's one of those things that you're at the mercy of the market, I guess, if you will, because we can do everything we can to set that situation up, but at some point in time, how our guests come in, how they want to treat it, and what they're comfortable doing, we're a little bit at their mercy, and that's really worked out, which has been something we really strive for and been proud of.
Well, a lot has changed in the neighborhood, even the 3 years you've been there.
Yeah, I mean, we were the first restaurant, first and only restaurant in that neighborhood for a long, long time. I don't know if any new spots have arose, but now there's so much residential and so many different. Bedrock's made their way in there, so they're having a slight impact. But you're right, there's still that taste of history. We're obviously in a historic building ourselves, and so it's that balance there. And we found that we tucked ourselves back off of Woodward, off of Watson Street, even though the building fronts on Woodward. And it was important because we did want that neighborhood feel, and it gives us a nice little private patio, and it's sort of an oasis away from the chaos that woodwork typically brings, especially being so close to the Little Caesars.
You guys mentioned the evolution. I mean, what has changed since the inception?
So, yeah, there's been an entire. Well, there's 400 units going up in the new City Modern, which is just on the other side of John R., which brings it a little closer to Ford Field. We built a second restaurant across the street by the name of Second Best. And then, I think the Scott was built, which is another 200 apartment units. There's another spot that's almost finished across the street. So, and the rest is all planned for, from what I can gather from my research and conversations with various city people around the city. So the most is yet to come. But I mean, we literally have been under construction on that street at some point since day one, starting with the queue line. So
and I think in regards to some of the evolution that we've experienced is a little bit reflective of the fact that we've tried to be really receptive to what things we do that our guests really like and what things they don't like as much, and I think the restaurant's evolved a little bit with some of that. Because again, we have our vision and we also have, guests to please. So I think some of that has evolved the way the restaurant has functioned a little bit over time.
So give us an example of that.
Well, we sell a lot more cheeseburgers, I can tell you that. And that's it literally, a huge factor for it is what's happening at Little Caesars Arena, or we do see Tigers traffic and Lions, of course, as well when that's happening. But you can see, we can feel the difference of what's happening in the city or at Little Caesars Arena based off of our clientele who's there and what our sales are. Right?
And what they're wearing.
It looks significantly
100%,
different from Kid Rock to Paul McCartney.
Yes.
In the restaurant.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the vehicles driving by.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
Yes.
It just, and that's an interesting thing, because you've talked about, we strive to be a neighborhood restaurant, and there's times when, we're completely consumed by not neighborhood, by whatever event's going on, and so we have to be a little bit ready to evolve in the moment to a degree.
Do you think about that as you're putting together the menu on any day-to-day?
I've never been more in tune with what's happening in a city than I have been here in Detroit, just based solely off of that because, obviously the population of Detroit has some growing to do and it's happening, but at a little slower rate than most of us would like. But, the difference between just a day, a Tuesday where nothing's happening in the city versus, Thursday night when, Lady Gaga's in town, then it becomes just, the population must double and it gets absolutely chaotic. And, I think it's awesome to see it for sure. And there's still that stigma from some suburbanites as far as coming down there and feeling safe and this and that. So fortunately for us, we're close enough that the walk isn't too far to people still feel comfortable in the area. And obviously as the growth continues, that comfort level still goes up. So
can you tell us about some of your favorite dishes?
Well, I was going to say, one of our examples from the last part we were just talking about with an example to listening to our clientele would be like a prime example was we never intended to be known for bologna.
Right. You didn't.
not even for a second.
We
didn't even think about that.
It was honestly one of the last dishes we wrote for the opening menu, and within the first 2 weeks there was 8 articles written about bologna, and at some point in time we've become personified with bologna forever.
I will say
so
when I
funny.
first went, I remember looking at the menu and I remember going, I've never seen that before.
On a menu like
I
this.
got to know
Yeah.
what that's about.
But I
Yeah.
think there's a nostalgia to it. Like my dad, I
Certainly.
grew up 6 kids in my family. My mom always cooked, but on the rare case she was sick or something, my dad only really made fried bologna sandwiches. So
No, I mean, a lot of people have a
it's-
story like
yeah.
that. It's just why it resonated with people so much. I mean, probably has something to do with why we wanted to do a dish with it. But so, I mean, that's a prime example of, we can't take it off the menu now. And that's us
No.
just listening to our clientele and our guests and knowing that that's something they want and they're going to seek out. And, it was frustrating at one point in time, I think, that we were stuck with it. And then recently I've eaten it again and been like, no, there's nothing I can be mad about on this dish. So I guess it's fine.
It's hitting all the senses. You got sweet,
It's like the
spicy,
band that has to
salty.
play the hit song at
Yeah.
every concert.
Right. Like, oh,
Solid
gosh.
analogy.
They say,
It's
yeah,
100%.
Warren Zevon got real tired of werewolves in London, but he's still playing it.
Yep. The public demands that.
Yeah.
So what about, can I ask about the smoked whitefish? Because that's something I've
for
read
sure.
about a little
That
bit.
is
So good.
that's probably the dish I would name for you. To your previous question of my favorite, it's basically our Michigan edition of bagels and lox, which is certainly a favorite breakfast or any time of day treat for me. And Chef Joe will attest. Anything I can put everything seasoning on, I will do it. So this is smoked Lake Superior whitefish with fried bagel croutons, which you make a panzanella with pickle vinaigrette, and then whipped everything creme fraiche with some pickles and capers in there, and it's good. I mean, you got a little interaction, you got to mix it up, and it's literally like eating a bagel with cream cheese and lox, which I adore. So that's another one that's been around since
Beginning.
Yeah, I didn't think it was on the opening one. So we do recognize that there's a certain level of appeal to have dishes that people can crave, and when they separate themselves, it's hard to say like, all right, well, we should get rid of this, but 80% of the menu, that's what we say. It's like, all right, I can't look at this anymore, or we'll evolve with the seasons, things like that. So the rest of the dishes do change, but we've got 2 dry aged steaks that we do. We work with Fairway Packing out of the Eastern Market, and they dry age them for us to our specs, and so it's a 60-day New York strip steak and then a 12-ounce filet, and those have been around since day one.
And the Food Network just recognized you for not only your steaks, but your chicken wings as well.
Yes, not bad.
Best
So
in the
I think-
country.
I think we
clearly,
actually
people
got-
are trying to tell us something about our food with bologna, cheeseburgers, chicken wings. Like maybe we're shooting for the stars. We should just go under for the bar food.
It still is Detroit. It still is Detroit.
But yeah, awesome recognition. Obviously, the partnership with Fairway and the fact that we get to work with such incredible steaks and put them out, and people have responded, and an accolade from Food Network isn't too bad. We'll take that.
What about sourcing your other ingredients locally? How much do you get into that?
We do a fair amount with that. We work with a few people, a few different farms that come into season mostly in the spring. It gets hard in the winter in Michigan, obviously, but there's still some squashes and stuff that get stored that we still get to work locally.
Yeah, so there's a farming conglomerate called Keep Growing Detroit.
Yes.
So we do work with them. We actually put on their graduation last summer for their high school students that come in and intern for the summer. So we were able to put on, they came in and we cooked dinner with them in the restaurant and served it
Nice.
to their families. So we
That's
work with them, and there's just a number of like hydroponic farms that we'll mess around with. And, as it goes, we of course go to Eastern Market as well. And I think it will become easier and easier as a restaurateur, because right now, you're still the old fashioned way, which I think there's something exciting and nostalgic about it. But also, if you've ever tried to park at Eastern Market on a Saturday, especially when you're trying to carry like 200 pounds worth of produce, not that awesome.
Right.
But, so we'll go there and grab whatever we can
Yeah.
find, obviously, when we get in season there. So.
And you get to go early, right? You get to go to.
So there is a little
Tuesday
hidden
as
parking
well.
spot. Don't anybody go looking for it.
I
'cause
know where it is, but I won't tell
Yeah,
anyone.
I need that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you are able to get in there, and we can of
Yeah.
course work with the different farmers and text them our order and tell them like bring this and set it aside for us. So
Yeah.
so it is ready to go, but you're still.
Yeah, and there's
why haven't
some
we
are a
bought
little bit
cart?
larger. Some are a little larger, like Seedling Farms we work with, and they sell
sure.
out of there. And then, but they're a little larger. They'll bring it to us, So we have
Yes.
a couple of that. And then Keep Growing Detroit is cool because there's always small city farms that are awesome to support. But as a restaurant, it's really hard because they can't supply enough, and it becomes impossible. But so because he's a conglomerate that collects from, I think
Right.
he has like 14 city farms he works with. He's able to, when tomatoes are in, gather enough tomatoes from 14 of them so that I can
That you
fulfill my
need.
order, right?
Right,
So
right.
that's been a big one for us for sure.
Can you guys talk a little bit about the cocktails there?
Oh, I was going to ask that.
Oh.
Yeah. So
You can ask about the beer.
So our main focus and I would assume at this point we're probably 50-50, which not a lot of restaurants get to claim that, their food is just as well respected as their drinks or vice versa. But we have several incredible beverage professionals that are on the team. Will Lee is one of our business partners along with my brother David. And I think Will's worked at every restaurant
Ever.
in Detroit, but an incredible mind and creative. The way he creates and the way he thinks is certainly sets us apart. So I can tell you I drink a lot of the cocktails, and I can tell you that there's a lot of stuff going on back there that I'm so lost in that I don't understand. And he tells me all the time that he'll train me as a bartender, and I would love it. I just need to get like 10 extra hours in the day.
Right,
got a favorite?
right.
Man, I don't know if
Mine
I
might
like-
be the Strange Clouds. That he still does that one.
I like that. What's it? Grandma's Garden.
Grandma's Garden.
He
Yeah.
took it off the menu.
Yeah.
Is that gone
Actually,
now?
if you're listening and you want to stop in Gregos, just tell Will Lee to put that thing back on there.
Will,
So
hello.
we could still make
He
it,
still
and
makes
that's
it,
one of
yeah.
the cool
Okay.
things about Will is that a lot of the drinks he can still create,
Sure.
even if they're not on the menu, and he works diligently to make sure that he has the.
It's like the secret
ingredients for it.
menu at In-N-Out.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a little bit like a
100%. Like-
secret menu.
If you really want to sound like an insider, can you ask Will to make me a Grandma's Garden?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
he'll know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. Don't
You're
worry
right.
about it. Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can name a favorite. I usually just go with the dealer's choice. I've been on a tiki cocktail kick for several weeks now since Chef Joe and I went to St. Lucia a month ago.
Oh,
and
nice.
I've been living on the islands ever since in my brain.
Little
Wish the
Yeah,
weather would
painkiller.
catch up.
Yeah.
Right?
I know. I could use a painkiller right now.
You know, as you mentioned, there are 4 of you. Can you talk about how you guys came together?
Sure. So I'm sure Chef Joe was dreaming about owning his own restaurant long before he and I came in contact with each other. But when I set off to go into culinary back in 2003, I had no idea what I was doing, but I was like, I'm going to go to culinary school and I'm going to open my first restaurant in Detroit. And I knew that my brother also wanted to do it. David, who's our CFO, and he was, he's obviously in the finance world, so leagues and leagues away from what the restaurant scene is. But he said he always wanted to get back into it, and so we set out as the goal, and that landed me in Chicago after I graduated from culinary school in our same college town.
Yeah, I mean, Johnson and Wales, amazing
Yeah,
school,
yeah.
right there in Providence, Rhode Island. I was right up the hill at
Very
Brown.
cool.
But also not too shabby.
Not
I
too
think the
shabby,
Ivy
you know,
League
yeah.
is where that one lies.
For
yeah.
a small state, Rhode Island has got some amazing
Powerhouse.
colleges.
Per capita,
Yeah.
Providence has more college students than any other city in the country.
Really? I didn't even realize
7
that.
universities within Providence city limits.
And Rhode Island School of Design, another amazing
RISD's
one.
right
Yeah.
there.
Yes, yes.
So many of them, yeah. So anyway, after that, I went to Chicago, and Dave was living out there at the time, going to school at Loyola, and I eventually ended up getting a job where Chef Joe was working, and that's where he and I met, and he jumped right in on the friendship and the ideas that we could go and open this restaurant together, and then we had a ridiculously early meeting in the career. Me, Joe, and Dave about opening a restaurant back in like 2009. No idea what we were doing. Sat down to write a business plan. Ended up just getting drunk and eating mussels.
But you guys were in Chicago.
Correct.
How did you wind up? Because you're not from Detroit, are
Yeah.
you?
No.
You had never even been here,
No,
right?
no. So we were working in Chicago together, and just kind of had the dream. I mean, originally, I think when I signed on, I wasn't sure that I was in on the Detroit plan. I've never been here before, anything like that.
I get you.
And then I was pretty happy in Chicago at the time.
we get it.
But then, like he said, we had this meeting to talk about where we would start. And I think the first question was like, so who knows what a business plan looks like? And we just sat there in silence, like, got it. So we're pretty far away from this thing right now. And then, we worked together on and off in Chicago, over the 10 years that we were there. And a couple stints together separately. And when we decided that I wanted to open up a restaurant, I was like ready to do it and move on from where we were currently working. I think I immediately said, if it makes it happen faster, I'll just go to Detroit. Like, let's just do this thing. And kind of just realized that, and these guys have been paying attention to the scene here very closely. And Dave had moved back already, so he had his foot on the ground, and he was, able to kind of pick up where it was at. And I think our idea was to not be the first trendsetters in Detroit, but because that's really hard. But trying to get in while it was still kind of on the ground floor was our idea. And I think we
feel like
timed
we
that
did.
pretty
You nailed
well.
that. Yeah, you nailed that.
It really, we got in when it was still pretty early, but it was, guys like Andy Holliday had sort of paved the way and kind of existed long enough that the dining scene was something that people were starting to take seriously and stuff. So, we obviously defer to those guys as the real pavers of the way, but we jumped on board.
Yeah, who are the guys that you look to in the Detroit community that...
Well, I mean, Andy Halliday for sure from
Godfather.
Southern Standard. Yeah, he's the man.
And the whole Detroit Optimist Society, right? I mean,
Yeah,
just how
they're
they've grown.
crushing
And,
it for sure.
Chef Mark is awesome
Yeah.
over there, so we really respect him a lot and know what he did. I know Dave Mancini at Sapino's was been doing it forever.
And of course, I guess Roast, they popped their doors
For
open.
sure.
Yeah.
For
That was
sure.
2008. Terrible timing for that thing to open, but look
Right.
at them. Still going, still good.
that happy hour.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good. Yeah.
It really is. I mean, there's just so much culinary talent that was here before anyone was ready to recognize it. And that, that was one of our biggest concerns about coming here was like, we just didn't want to look like it was like, oh, look at us. We came from Chicago and we're big time and we're going to open this restaurant and show you how it's done. Because it's like, I had so much respect for, who was already here and who was already doing things. And so, the open arms and welcome from pretty much every chef in this city was incredible. Like we came from Chicago, which is obviously super competitive and very, niche oriented, and everyone kind of has their restaurant allies, and you're on your own island out there. And then we came here, and it was like everyone was like, "Let me know if you need to use the kitchen, if you need me to order you anything."
Who
like,
can I introduce you to?
Literally.
Yeah.
And it's
Right.
like, I think our first reaction was like, what's your deal?
Yeah.
What's the
Like,
catch,
what
man?
What are
Yeah.
you looking for here? And then
Yeah, you
a
were
little,
dated.
After a little bit, we realized it was super genuine, and everyone's been so great since. So
I tell people that all the time that come visit Detroit. Like, it's still a collaborative place.
Yeah.
From artists to musicians to chefs. Like, you want your community to grow of your creative
and
people.
Everybody needs everyone to do well
Yeah.
to help build the success,
I
right?
love
And it's a
that.
different thing. And actually, I know one of the things we've told. We said that to Dave Mancini one time when we first moved here, and his response I thought was perfect. And he's like, "I never even thought that maybe it's different somewhere else." And I was
Right,
like, "That's perfect. That sums it up right there."
It really, it's unique, and it's clearly the biggest beacon of light and excitement for us as restaurateurs to be able to be a part of that, and to also be extending hands and helping people out. And even when Katoy at the time had
Yes.
its untimely demise there, if you just tuned in at that point and watched what happened and what people did for those guys, it
Yes.
was a clear indication of like, this is beyond, what most culinary industries in certain cities are, because everyone opened the doors. I mean, they're still the only people we've ever handed the keys over from Gregos. Was the oddest thing we've ever done in terms of relinquishing control of our own restaurant, but it was like a no-brainer. We texted Chef Brad and we're like, just tell us what day you want to take the restaurant and we'll give it to you, and help raise some money and keep their people employed, and it obviously worked out. Still killing it. They beat us in the best restaurant competition.
Let's talk about that, because
Yes.
you opened your doors in 2016, and then early 2017 you're named the #2 best restaurant by the Detroit Free Press, and then that second best.
Yeah, I love how you got the name.
We didn't know that this was going to be the trend of second place finishes. Typically, Joe and I are both pretty damn competitive, so not something we're striving for is second place.
we don't really enjoy it very much.
No, I can tell.
And it didn't feel good that time. When especially in a competition like that, where we legitimately felt like we had a good shot at it,
Right.
and then it's like, when you get second place, it's like, I wish I got like fifth place.
Yeah, we wish
I
it was
didn't
off
have
the
to
list
think about
immediately. Like,
that.
just
So-
throw the whole thing out.
'Cause you were ahead of every other loser.
Yeah,
Is
100%.
second place.
100%. But yeah, I mean, it was obviously a tremendous honor to get that, and we were grateful for Mark Kurlianchik from the Free Press for giving it to us, and we were gracious losers to Brad, even though I still give him a hard time
I'm
about
sure,
it. It's been
yeah.
3 years.
Too bad he's nice. It's
I
like,
know,
dang, couldn't he
it's
just be a
so
jerk
true.
too?
But yeah, then it just that kicked off a ridiculously long stretch of second place finishes. Burger battle, pizza slam, 3 different cocktail competitions,
competitions all over the
ramen
place.
battle. I
Second
mean,
place.
it's like we just can't So when the
People like us, they don't love us.
yeah, you're almost there. You're almost there. But when the space, which used to be the home of the Heidelberg Project, Tyree Guyton's
Yes.
house and studio, which was right across the street from Gregos, which was super cool to have. Awesome dude. Unfortunately, he fell victim to the
Right.
Price hike in the
Yeah,
neighborhood. Yeah.
He's
can't
out.
even
Yeah.
think of the word. But anyway, that space became available, and we ended up meeting the owners of it and convincing them to let us pitch them on an idea to open a bar in their space, which they had no intention of doing. Took a couple months of convincing before they finally signed on. But, you know, for us, Joe and I had spent so much time in Chicago. We brought five people with us from our team in Chicago that moved here, all non-Detroiters
yeah,
who came here
Nice.
sight unseen. Yeah, it was so humbling to have that happen because
Yeah.
it's like, you know, if we were like, hey, we're going to New York and open a restaurant, like, you coming? Everyone would be like, yeah, but it's like, hey, we're going to Detroit. You know, like, Detroit, what are you going there for? It's like, it's because it's the best city ever. And so anyway, so they came with us, and you know, one of the things we missed was being able to walk out of the restaurant after a long night of service and then walk next door or across the street to a bar.
Yeah.
You know, not that there isn't some phenomenal bars really close to us, because there absolutely is some that we've
But not
spent
that
too
close.
much time.
Right.
But if I got to get in the car at the end of the night, it's over. I'm going
Yeah,
home.
no. Mm-hmm.
Home bar is the cheapest place out there. So, but anyway, you know, we thought, let's do it. Let's capitalize on the fact that we do have so much traffic from, you know, the Little Caesars now, and you know, the DSO's right up the street, the IA's right there, the Fox Theater, like everything's within walking
That's a
distance
prime
of it.
example of, like, if it's something that we're sitting here, like, I wish this neighborhood had a bar. Like, we can't be the only people
Of
saying
course.
that,
Yeah,
right?
I
Like,
need a little cheers. So that's what we did, was open, you know, come up with this concept, and our director of operations, Randy Densmore, was the man responsible for the second best moniker, and he was completely kidding when he said it, but it was just like, as soon as he texted, like, yeah, we should just name it second
Yes.
best. It was
well,
like,
because
totally.
it had become a
Right.
running joke where everything we did was like, well, what made this new dish? Like, well, it's probably the second best one. You know, like, it just, you know, and so.
I tried to spin it positively. Like, you get 2 chances to win at Gregos. Like, we will respect the hell out of you if you get first or second place. Like, totally 2 chances to win.
That's right.
But yeah, it was a total joke. And then,
But it started taking a life of its own after the pettiness of it, if you will.
Yeah.
But then at some time, and the idea was, it kind of personified what we want to do, because it's like, I think we're really proud of what we do there. It's a scratch kitchen, it's a scratch cocktail bar. You know, we do everything ourselves, but the vibe we're going for, it's like sometimes we like maybe don't need to go to the nicest place in town. Like
Right.
some nights I'm not in the mood for that. Like the second best would be just fine. So
Sometimes,
it started to
yeah.
kind of personify itself after the running joke.
You just want the bucket of the champagne of beers.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's
That's just
sometimes
it.
it's the night, yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, are you ready to play a little game?
Yeah, let's do it.
off the game.
I like the music.
I'm already bummed.
Scary.
That could have been it. This is over.
Here's how this works. We're going to ask you for a series of rapid fire recommendations. Just tell us the first thing that comes to mind. Starting with this, we've got one Detroit native and we've got one transplant who's only been here for a couple years. So, what are each of your favorite Coney joints? You know, Coney Island joints here in the Detroit area.
I go to Hambo in Ferndale.
Are you a Coney fan now that you're here?
Yes.
Are you allowed to say that?
No, I am. I'm at risk of saying it, but I'm not listening to the argument of it being better than a Chicago dog, because it's
Oh.
not.
It's just different. Is
They're
it second
different.
best?
Yeah, it can be second
second
best.
best.
I do enjoy a Coney, but I don't
Okay.
like when people make that argument. I have to immediately shut them down. So
okay.
on the risk on the Detroit podcast, I'm saying it.
Fair enough.
I'm a national Coney Island guy. I hate to say it because it's super corporatized out there and not as cool as Lafayette or
I was gonna say-
American. But I grew up on the east side, and that was our hangout. Corner of 19 and Garfield, National Coney Island. A lot of good time spent there. So
I do really enjoy Lafayette though. Late night, like 9 plates going up that guy's arm is pretty
Oh.
impressive.
One of the
at
coolest
3 in
things
morning.
ever.
It
So
really
I
is. It's a
I
show.
had a really good time with that for sure.
Nice.
Okay, how about what's your favorite Faygo flavor to go with those conies?
man, that's a toss up between cream soda and cola.
I just discovered Arctic Sun. I thought that was delicious.
Arctic
I haven't had
Oh,
that yet.
yeah.
What
It's
is
in the
that?
blue bottle.
Yeah,
blue,
very
yeah.
impressive packaging on the Arctic Sun. It's got
Honestly,
these
the
rays
bottle
of
the
light.
bottle drew me to it
You
from
feel good
across the
drinking.
gas station. I
Like
was like,
Smurfs in it? What's in it?
Let's call
it's
it.
white, but it's like it's a citrus soda,
Yeah,
but it's
like a
pretty good.
Sprite
Pretty good.
kind of thing,
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll bring you a bottle next time.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a favorite specialty food shop in the area? Chocolate, cheese, ethnic?
I didn't know if this counts, but Rocco's Italian Deli that just opened up has a really cool Italian import section. It has like a retail section to it, as well as their charcuterie shop there. I think that's pretty dope. I really like that place.
Nice.
So probably Tringali's,
Ooh,
which
yeah.
is East Side Bakery. A lot of bread coming out of there, but they also make this pastry called Edisi, even though I don't think that's how you should say it. That's what they say it there. It sounds like it should have a more Italian sounding name. Anyway, but it's like this fried
Edisi.
donut cannoli hybrid. I'm
What?
telling you, it's like
It's
it is
incredible.
unbelievable. I was doing a speech for somebody, and they had breakfast out for the people that were there to listen, and this guy kept insisting that I eat it, but it's covered in powdered sugar, and I'm thinking like,
It's gonna be
that's just what I need, right?
yeah.
I would take this down at 8 a.m. right before I go up and give this speech with this powdered sugar. You know, what are they going
Right.
to think it is? I don't know what's going to happen. But I took one for the road, and I remember it was my day off. I went to Home Depot after I was in the parking lot, and I was like, I'm going to take a bite of this thing. And I inhaled that thing after one bite, and I've been back several times. I bring them as often as I go to the East Side. It's incredible.
Wow.
That's
God.
an endorsement.
I know.
Yeah. So
Man.
good. Cannoli filling inside a crispy, like donut-y thing. I don't even know how it stays crisp. I'm going to go work there.
But it's
I'm
like
out.
the
Yeah.
layers on it. It's almost like a cream puff. It's almost like shoe
Cronutty.
dough. Yeah,
It's
like
Oh.
there's a lot
it's
going
like
on.
fried shoe dough or something. I
Do
don't
chefs
know.
reverse engineer foods when you have something
Thousands
Oh
like
yeah,
this?
all the time.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
like breaking it down, like what, and you like sometimes you're picking it apart and dissecting it for sure.
Techniques, yeah.
But it's
yeah.
honestly one of the most difficult things to do because it's
Oh, it's
just like
impossible,
everyone's
yeah.
got the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
short of just going over there and learning how to do it.
I mean, it's like when I was a kid, my grandma would show me how she made her veal and polenta, and every time like I turn around, you add something to this. Like I know you're not showing me everything. You know?
Right.
Like everyone's got a
secret.
secret. So whenever you're breaking something down, you're missing someone's secret always.
Did you see how long they talked about that thing?
Yes, I know.
Sorry, I got really excited.
That is
Shout out
amazing.
to Tringali's
I'm
for
so
doing your thing. yeah.
hungry right now. Okay, so next building, if you could restore in Detroit for your next restaurant, what one would you have your eye on?
That's a heck of a question. I don't know if I have a good answer for that one.
Me either.
Correction. I don't know that this building has a name on it, to be
Oh.
honest with you.
Where is it?
Yeah.
In Brush Park as well. It's like
Okay.
this really, it's on a corner by Bobian, and it has like this little, one part of it's like, looks like a garage. It's on an angle, and then it's attached to another building. I don't know what the heck this thing was, but just something about the building lures me in all the time. But yeah, I mean, there's just so much architecture. There's so many incredible
Yeah.
spots already being scooped up. We're already behind the times if you guys are going to give me that money to go do this.
Well, right. I know. We'll work on raising some funds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, now, in recent times here, I wouldn't mind storming on into Eastern Market and making a little splash there since they're concerned about Paneras and Subways
Exactly,
going
with the
in
Nelson.
Yeah.
there.
Nelsons.
Yes, the big drama.
Are you looking at anything? I mean, is there anything you guys?
I
We're
mean,
always
we
looking.
are always on the hunt. For some reason, we're going to keep coming back for more. Just can't get enough of opening restaurants. But no, it's such an incredible time now to do it. And, you know.
Well, we're
this-
fortunate enough now too that people approach us with projects and,
I'm
and
sure,
spaces.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know, we don't have to be like spending a lot of time actively seeking stuff out to be considering things, and I think that's helpful.
What are the concepts that you're kicking around in your head that you'd like to do?
I would just say there's a handful that we both have, and our other beverage director, Will, has some as well. But I think we will always look at a space in a neighborhood and what does it need and what will fit there more than like what my desires and dreams are per se. Because I have a handful that I think I could get behind. I know John's the same way. You know, but I think depending on what else is going on, where a space is. So it's a matter of finding a space that's the right size for us, the right neighborhood, right development, right price, and then assessing like what would make sense here. I think that's kind of how we would approach things.
Smart.
Sometimes, I think you see the untimely demise of spaces that try and force something into a neighborhood that's not ready for it or doesn't want it or doesn't need it kind of deal. So,
Yeah, it's like if there's a pizza place down the street, they don't need another one right next to it, right?
I liked Fists of Curry. And I
Yeah,
love it
yeah.
fit into
Me
that
too. I thought it
category.
was cool, but
I never made it.
Oh.
Yeah, it just wasn't
sad.
the right. Yeah.
I
Did you go before it was Fists of Curry?
No, I don't know
I
what it
did.
was before.
I went
For
to
the
Hero
Hero
Room.
Room?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had dined there for sure, and I loved the
I liked
concept.
that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I loved what they were doing. It was a really cool space, and but
I honestly think
it's a
some
decent
spaces
example
are
of it.
just like a little bit cursed somehow. I mean,
Yeah, sometimes it's like the entryway's in the wrong spot, and it just throws everything
Or
off. I feel
something,
like
yeah.
something's silly.
let's see. If you're not at Grey Ghost or Second Best, where would you go for a romantic date in town?
I would probably go visit my good friend, Mr. James Regato at Mabel Gray.
Mm-hmm.
Such a talented guy. Really cool spot. I'd really, just. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a nice intimate space,
For sure. It
yeah.
is a nice intimate space. They always take good care of us, and just perching up at the bar and watching the bartenders do their thing, and the cooks as well. It's cool, and him having that little niche of a 42-seat restaurant is pretty good.
Last date night, both of them, I think I went to She-Wolf.
Ah,
Very cool.
nice.
Big fan.
You been? Have you been
Yes,
to She-Wolf?
yes.
Not yet, no.
You gotta go.
I liked it.
Oh,
I
you
did
need to get in line
a,
for 6 months in advance.
I had a
But yeah.
nice even talk about walkability. We went to Castalia for cocktails, She-Wolf for dinner, and Willis Show Bar for a show.
Oh,
Nice.
man, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Bad.
All right, new guy and native. What is the thing about Detroit that you brag to your out-of-town friends about?
Yeah, Chef Joe, that's a great question. I'd be curious to hear about this. Yeah. I mean, without question for me, it's purely the pride and enthusiasm of the people of Detroit. And sometimes it can get obnoxious where people are really defending it, to the death and have that feeling of like, well, you weren't here during the hard time and now you are, and you're just taking advantage of it and stuff. And that's fine. I'll take the haters all day long, but just so much enthusiasm and pride and excitement when you say you're from here, and that's enduring. I lived away for 15 years, and it's like even watching it over the years, the different reaction of people were like, "You're from Detroit?" And you're like, "Yeah, I am from Detroit." And 15 years ago versus 4 years ago when we moved back here, it was just so different. So that's hands down my favorite thing about it.
I don't know. This is too cliche, but I mean that's what I talk about the most is how I think just undervalued the dining scene is here. And I get really excited when I get friends in from out of town to like show them around and be like, I know this guy that's doing this over here and this over here, and I think that there's so much, and it's like it's become to the point where I can't knock it out in a day. When I first moved here, I was like, okay, I go to these 6 spots, and it's like, but now it's like there's too much, and I think that's generally what it's too cliche, I know, but
No, I was recently asked to, if you had a friend coming into town 7 days, lunch and dinner every day.
Holy cow!
And I still had more ideas.
Yeah,
And I
think
was
this
like,
top of
this
them for
is
sure.
amazing.
It's cool, and it's like, and I think, I guess part of why I get a little pride from it is because I feel we've been involved in the development of that and the part of that. So that's been
Absolutely.
cool.
You were on my list.
Let me
Heck
ask you
yeah.
this:
Thank you.
was Scotty Simpson's fish and chips on your list?
It wasn't.
Oh my God, you got to go.
This
to
I
fried
don't
fish.
know.
To go.
Where is Scotty's?
It's the southwest side.
Okay.
Deep southwest side off of Fenkel.
Okay.
And it's been around, I think, late 50s, maybe early 60s. It's a fish and chip spot. And if you don't want fish and chips, then you can have shrimp and chips, chicken and chips.
But it's like walking into like a VFW hall. Like,
Oh,
and it's
yeah,
like,
they
love
haven't
it.
touched that thing since they
Yeah,
built it.
it's
awesome.
Potentially,
Nice.
maybe not even dusted it, unknown.
Yeah, you just feel the
They
grease.
fry and
in
beef
the-
fat.
yeah.
It's like one guy back there just
Was
dredging the heck out of some fish, and you get like dinner roll in a bag with the butter
Oh,
with
yeah.
the gold top. You get pie for dessert, and it's incredible. I remember reading about it in this, like, who knows, some kind of Southern living or good
Yeah.
housekeeping. I don't know. When I was like sitting in a
What is it?
dentist's
Guns
office.
and what's the
Guns and Butter?
Guns and Butter.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
he's a friend of
yeah.
mine. We went to school together.
Really?
Yeah, Mr. Craig Lightfelt. Yeah. We went to middle school or elementary school and middle school together. And I didn't even know that kid became a chef. And then I ran into him, and he was the sous chef at a Michelin-starred spot in New York.
Wow.
Yeah, and I
So
was like,
cool.
"Holy cow, you're a chef!" And then
Yeah.
he came back, had a heck of a run. Anthony Bourdain came out
Mm-hmm.
and visited him, and I know my brother went to a few of the pop-ups and just raved about it. I mean, he was crushing it. So
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
where he went. I think he's back in LA now.
Yeah, okay.
Unknown.
All right, guys. Nice
That's
job.
awesome.
Yes. Look, thanks so much for coming on the show. It was great to have you guys here.
Absolutely.
Chefs John and Joe from Grey Ghost.
Don't
Greg
come there
Goose is-
ask for Grey Goose. You don't have it.
No.
Grey Ghost is at 47 Watson Street. Second Best is at 42 Watson Street. And go check it out.
Definitely. Make a night of it.
Guys,
So good.
thank you so much.
Hey, thank you
Thanks a
guys
lot.
so much. This
Yeah.
is awesome.
All right, until next time, Detroit's moving.
Keep up.
The D Brief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.